A very good day to Sahai John and to my fellow colleagues. Today me and my groupmates will present a topic about deforestation issue caused by the Pan-Borneo Highway project.
The Pan-Borneo Highway, also known as the Trans-Borneo Highway or the Trans-Kalimantan Highway, is a road network on Borneo Island that connects the Malaysian states of Sabah and Sarawak with Brunei and Kalimantan region in Indonesia. The highway is a cooperative initiative between the two governments that began with the establishment of Malaysia in 1963, when Malaya, Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore were formed. The major reason for the building was Sarawak's lack of road network infrastructure. Even though the introduction of the Pan-Borneo Highway contributes a lot towards the economic growth and rural connectivity, significant issues occur, however, when road proponents fail to evaluate all of the costs and hazards that roads may bring to the economy, society, and environment. In this case, we will discuss regarding deforestation that occurred from this project. Deforestation refers to the loss of forests across the areas where the construction of this road was done. Hence, due to the deforestation that occurred, it poses other negative impacts which will be discussed further.
Good morning everyone, I'm Sharifa and I will be presenting about the issues of Pan-Borneo. The first issue of Pan-Borneo due to deforestation is the increased greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. A greenhouse gas, or also called as GHG, is a gas in an atmosphere that absorbs and emits radiations within the thermal infrared range. According to Dr. Marimutu, the president of Federations of Malaysian Consumer Associations in 2017, deforestation will contribute about 12 to 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions, resulting in climate change. In the case of Pan-Borneo, the highway will result in forest loss both directly and indirectly through deforestation during constructions and subsequent industrial expansions, and will cause large amounts of greenhouse gases to enter the atmosphere. The Pan-Borneo Highway traverses Sarawak from southeast to northeast with a total length of 1,060 km and a projected completion date of 2021. The expansions of two-lane single carriageway to four-lane dual carriageway is a part of this transportation projects, which also includes the buildings of new roads and repair to the existing highway. According to Christina in 2019, greenhouse gas emissions have a wide range of environmental and health consequences. They contribute to respiratory problems caused by smoke and air pollution, as well as contributing to climate change by trapping heat. Other implications of climate change produced by greenhouse gases include harsh weather, food supply shortage, and increasing wildfire. Heat stress, for example, is an environmental and occupational hazard that can cause chronic illnesses and even mortality as a result of the after effects of heat stroke. The national policy on climate change has been used in Malaysia to address the issues of greenhouse emissions that resulting in climate change. In dealing with the issue, existing government policies and regulations have been poorly formulated. In Malaysia's mainstreaming policy pertaining to development activities, mitigations alternative for climate change impacts, and awareness of policy resources are regularly mentioned, but detailed practical guidance on how to take them into consideration is still absent. Although it is evidence that a suitable cost-effective policy framework can help shape appropriate policies to address the climate change issues, operational decisions are often contentious due to cost-benefit estimations. For example, if the governments consider climate change to be a public good, which is obviously bad, it shows the poor quality of the policy itself. As a result, economic analysis such as a cost-benefit analysis can assist in identifying the most efficient and appropriate policy instruments for mitigations through the applications of a formula. Moving on to the next issues, landslide lead to the collapse of Pan-Borneo. According to Asia et al. 2019, landslides may be defined as the movement of a mass of rock, rubble, or dirt down a slope. This typically occurs on a discrete bonding slip of surface, which is the moving mass. Landslides arise as a result of human activities such as deforestation, land use change, development of high-rise buildings, highway, and insufficient drainage system. The Pan-Borneo Highway's existing alignment will almost certainly result in more landslides in Sarawak. This is because most of these locations are now forested, and road building will necessitate deforestation and site disturbance, making this place more prone to landslides both before and after developments. The road portions between Cebu and Bintulu appear to be the most dangerous, followed by the road segment between Telok Melano and Kuching and the road segment in the lowest regions. If dam constructions goes according to plan, all dams will be built in already wooded areas, inundating forests on steep slopes. The impact of landslides has resulted in several environmental and social difficulties, such as loss of life, property and infrastructure damage, psychological stress among victims, land boundary conflicts, and land degradations. Aside from that, landslides can cause significant harm to the whole of environments. It will obstruct highway, train tracks, and shipping lanes. The implications that have been mentioned will significantly raise highway maintenance expenses and related disaster management costs in the regions. Fundamental criteria for disaster management in Malaysia are contained in National Security Council Directive Number 20, the Land Conservation Act of 1960, the National Land Code of 1965, the Environmental Quality Act of 1974, the Street Drainage and Building Act of 1974, and etc. However, under Sections 95, Subsections 2 of the Street Drainage and Building Act 1974 exempts the state authority, local authority, and any public officer or employee of the local authority from any actions, claim, liability, or demand arising out of any building or other works carried out in accordance with the Act's provisions. In the Highlands Tower case, the court interpreted these provisions to mean that the local government is immune from having to pay compensations for poor economic loss caused by the landslide. Therefore, the government should take preventive measures in order to address the issue of landslides to avoid economic loss and save people's lives. That's all from me. Thank you.
Moving on to the third issue that occurs from the deforestation of Pan Borneo project. Basically, the third issue that arises is the deforestation could increase the flooding risk to occur. According to Borneo project, states that building a road will lead to rapid surface flow from roads that indirectly increasing the local and downstream flooding. This is because, according to Parera 2014, explained that forest or tree could hold more water than farm or grassland, and the forest also could prevent sediment overflow of water. Thus, cutting or eliminating the tree could increase the sediment runoff, and the land could not hold more water that indirectly could increase the flooding risk. The leaves also absorb the water and evaporate it to the atmosphere, and eliminating the tree could increase the water absorption to the soil and leads to soil erosion and increasing the risk of flooding to occur, since the soil could not hold more water compared with tree. Therefore, the risk of flooding could create certain impacts towards not only the animal but also the human well-being, in which the runoff water could make the river overflow and creates a localized flooding. Moreover, it also could lead to vegetation mortality, especially during the heavy rain season, that could drive away the vegetation by flooding. Hudson et al. 2017 also states that floods have a range of impacts on communities, including the loss of life, injuries, and mental health effects, and even perhaps the damage of property. The physical health of the people also could be threatened, as they could caught on illness because of the contaminated water. So now we move to why current policy could not solve the issue. Basically, there is a law to monitor on the development and environment, which is the Environmental Impact Assessment or EIA. But according to Rahitma 2021, states that this policy or law have a loophole in which it enables the developer to influence the EIA process, whereas she states that the EIA assessment will be evaluated by majority panel and the developer could select their own chairperson. Thus, this could create a loophole on the decision-making process on the assessment conclusion, since the panel are not independent and could be appointed by the developer itself. Hence, we could see that there is a weaknesses in the EIA process that possibly leads to ineffectiveness of the policy to solve the problem. Now we move to the last issue that occurred, which is the deforestation for Pan Borneo project could impact the wildlife system in Borneo forest. The Pan Borneo project could give a substantial impact towards the wildlife ecosystem because the road that been built could prevent migration for certain species that leads inability for an animal to access specific area for food, reproduction and its population habitats. This could lead to unstable population and increase the threats for an extinction. For example, for the past years, the deforestation that occur in Pan Borneo leads to elimination of fruit trees such as towering diptocrab tree that leads to the species of orangutan, sun bear and bearded pig and many other species experience shortage of food stock. Moreover, building the road will increase the temperature of the surrounding forest as the road creates more heat, humidity and dry into the surrounding area and leads the animal to stay away from the roads. Thus, the problem occur could give a substantial impact towards the wildlife, as it could threaten the biodiversity of forests in Borneo and resulting to the species isolation, locally extinct and increasing the extinction risk of the globally endangered species such as proboscis monkey, orangutan and Sarawak surili. Moreover, the migration of animals to find new place for food, shelters and habitats, sometimes the migration could extend for hundreds of kilometers. Thus, the migration will endanger the animal as it could expose to road kills and hunting by the human that near the road. Hence, it could be seen that the deforestation could give a substantial impact towards the wildlife ecosystem. So now we move to why current policy could not solve the problem. As the policy for deforestation, Sabah has a framework policy to guide and protect the forest management in Sabah under the Forest Enactment 1968. But many observers seem skeptical about the progress as the enforcement was not really inclusive and also public participation is low. Besides, the EIA process has a loophole for the developer to influence the decision-making process. Hence, it leads to ineffectiveness of current policy in protecting the wildlife ecosystem from the deforestation done for Pan Borneo project.
Moving on to the suggestions, the first one is limit road expansion. Experts advise avoiding routes that enter distant border regions if feasible. Wilderness areas, parks and protected areas, remnants of rare ecosystems, and areas with many local endemic species are all examples of environments where roads and other infrastructure should be strictly avoided entirely. This issue must be discussed during the early stage of the construction so they are able to ensure the safety of various species as well as sticking with the objective of the Pan Borneo Highway project. Next is road design strategies. In order to curb flooding issues, large culverts for streams beneath roadways that are properly designed can reduce damaging flooding while maintaining stream flows. Soil erosion and stream sedimentation can be minimized by restricting heavy equipment usage to dry season and planting fast-growing native plants over road cuttings and abandoned quarry sites. Limiting road width and keeping a virtually continuous canopy overhead might help reduce barrier impacts on wildlife. Therefore, a proper road design strategy will enable to reduce the impacts of the issues that will occur from the construction of the Pan Borneo Highway.
The third solution is prevention on floods. The recognition of the flooding issues as part of the environment is essential. The communities, especially those who are involved in the construction of Pan Borneo Highway, should be aware of all the risks. In this context, being aware means that they acknowledge it, to know about it, repressing it, as well as taking proper actions in preventing the whole situation from occurring. Water management systems need to be organized and forecast, as well as flood defense measures and crisis management need to be improved on the river basin basis. This will take place in cooperation with the relevant hydrological and meteorological organizations, mitigation planning, water control, civil protection and crisis management units. Good structural measures, preventing measures and operating measures during flood events are needed for flood prevention, protection and mitigation. For instance, by building code and legislation to keep structures away from areas subject to flood condition, mitigation system, early warning system, as well as proper risk communication. In some situations, it may also be advisable to relocate every threatened activities and buildings. Through this, they are able to prevent or minimize any flood issues which will occur from the construction of the Pan-Borneo Highway. Landslides damage lives and settlements, infrastructure for development, agriculture, as well as forests. They occur if the shear stress exceeds the material's shear strength. The terms mass movements, slope failures, and slope instability refers to landslide events. The types of landslide treatment and mitigation are determined by the causes of landslides and the problems in hazardous areas. Landslide treatment usually focuses on the areas affected immediately to fix sliding and to reduce the immediate negative effects on the area around. Meanwhile, mitigation focuses on minimizing landslides in a whole watershed for long periods of time. This includes management of land and water resources upstream of the landslide, as well as improving land use downstream of the landslide and by protecting the area. Therefore, a proper way of treatment and mitigation could prevent or minimize the impact of landslides that may occur from the construction of the Pan-Borneo Highway. We learned that every project that has been conducted or yet to be conducted comes with impact. As an example, the construction of the Pan-Borneo Highway causes environmental effects. Every party that involved in this construction should be able to foresee the cause and effect of the construction if they do not take any action to prevent the worst to happen. On top of all that, we also learned that it is important for us to acknowledge every single aspect that may cause any casualties to occur. For instance, we learned that the construction of the Pan-Borneo Highway have affected the wildlife as well as the floods and landslides to happen. As long as all parties involved are responsible for it, any casualties that occur after this can be minimized and it will surely decrease the impacts on the environment.
To conclude, the Borneo forest is classified as the oldest rainforest in the world, in which its belief has been existed for more than 130 million years. The development of Pan-Borneo is really concerned by the environmentalists as it could affect the speciality of the Borneo forest. Indeed, the development of Pan-Borneo has a significant impact towards the economy of Malaysia, but it also seems to have a negative impact towards the environment. Therefore, an effort is needed to be done to ensure there is a check and balance between the development and also the environment to ensure the sustainable development between the economy and environment could be achieved. That is all from us. Thank you.